It was a mimer called ופרצת וקדמה וצפונה ונגבה, and we spoke about how we have the level of ופרצת, which is the level of bligvul, coming into the gvul of all the different the dal druchas ha'olam, yam, tzefona, ונגבה, and so on. And we spoke about that the whole idea of Shema Yisrael and the idea of L'cha Hashem Agdula Agvura is about elevating the spheres, elevating the koiches to above, and then drawing down in a similar vein from above to below. And we said this is also the idea of Yichud Soiv Male, the idea of Yichud Kutchabrichu Shchinte, that this we're doing through our avodah, through kriyashma, which is the klolus inyan of Torah mitzvahs, and in a more specific manner, that every mitzvah does this union of soiv v'mamale, kutchabrichu, shchinte, havaya, and alakim, in such a way that that which is havaya, higher than nature, should come together with the oid alaki that's in nature, and kriyashma does it in a general way, and every mitzvah does it in a specific yichud of that particular mitzvah. Now the Rebbe on the 5th page of the Maimer, page 511, is going to explain how and why mitzvahs can accomplish this. Yet we still need to understand how is it possible to affect this union through mitzvahs. This makes sense when we're dealing with Torah. Torah is an idea of understanding and comprehension. It's a spiritual activity. So through Torah, it's possible to affect this union. The mitzvahs that are physical. Also mitzvahs that are involving the obligations of the heart are also in the physical. So even not just a mitzvah like tefillin and mezuzah that are physical, and therefore how can a physical mitzvah affect a union of kuchbrichu and shchinte, of soivim and male? But even a mitzvah like ava v'yira, this also involves the physical bebasara levagashmi. It has to be felt in the physical flesh of the heart. The heart has to beat faster because of his love of Hashem and because of his awe of Hashem. Physically, you have to feel the love and awe. How is it possible that through mitzvahs that involve the physical could affect this union of Havaya and Alakim, Havaya and Adna, Yisrael and Mali? Seemingly, what's the connection? In the beginning of the Maimer, we spoke about the idea that in the first parsha of Krishma, it first says Vishinantam, first it speaks about Limud Torah, and then it speaks about Ukshartam, you should bind the tefillin, that the whole mitzvah of the Torah is likened to tefillin, and therefore we see the Maila that Talmud is Gadol. And in the second parsha of Krishma, we see the other opinion. The opinion, first it says Ukshartem, and then it says Ulamatem. First it says Tefillin, which the entire mitzvah of Torah is likened to Tefillin, and then it talks about Torah study. And we ask, seemingly the Gemara rules that Talmud is Gadol, so why does he say in the second parsha of Krishma something which doesn't seem to go according to the ruling of the Gemara that Talmud is Gadol? So the Rebbe is going to go back to that Maimer Chazal, and that Maimer Chazal, where the Chazal discuss which is greater, Talmud or Maisa. So the Rebbe asks over here, why does he use this expression, Talmud or Maisa? He could have said a more simpler expression. Is Talmud Gadol or mitzvahs gedolos? Are mitzvahs greater than learning? The Chura Havale L'Meimer Aloshin Torah Gedolah Mitzvahs Gedolos, and the Talmud is also a little bit unusual. He should have just said, is Torah greater or are mitzvahs greater? V'lama Omer Haloshin Talmud U'Maisa. Why does the expression? At the Chazal discuss this question, they use Talmud and action. So he's not really going to explain so much why Talmud, not Torah. That's not the main question. The main question is about the word Maisa. V'inyan hu the ma'isa moloshin kfir. Ma'isa, action, is also from the expression of coercing, forcing someone. Ukemai get ha'me'usa. It speaks about, in halacha, it speaks about in the Gemara, what happens if a get was given in a coerced fashion. The term used is me'usa, from the shorish of ma'isa. Oy, another expression that's used in Chazal, ma'asin al tzedakah. There are circumstances, situations where Bezdin, the community, can force someone to give tzedakah. So we see that the word ma'isa is related to the concept of kfiyah, coercion. V'zeu haloshen ma'isa gadol. This is the expression that says that action is greater. The main advantage of mitzvahs, mitzvah atzma, is not from the perspective of the mitzvah itself, because of the part of the mitzvah that involves, every mitzvah has the ma'isa component, the coercion part of the mitzvah, as we'll soon explain. And that is what is powerful enough to cause this union above. Through this coercion, we affect the union of Shem Havai and Shem Elokim. How come? We need to do something that could reach such a high level. And what is that thing that could reach such a high level? Is to be able to reach to the light of Soiv that's beyond worlds. It's through coercion that he forces himself and he nullifies himself. Through his bittul, through the coercion, through that the person becomes a vessel and a vehicle for drawing down soiviv. And to join it with the light of Mamali. All of this is through coercion and through nullifying. Like it says, what's the idea of v'yicholi truma? So it says, through the idea of us separating truma down here, we cause the raising, the elevation of above. That we affect that it should be, I raise you up, Elekai, the king. Like the two explanations in what does it mean, So first of all, the first level, this is similar to what we spoke about before, raising up to the Eibishter first. First, we are raising up the level of Elekai and the level of Melech. Merumim b'chinas Elekei HaMelech b'chinas HaRoimis the Keser. Shumeroimim, he raises up the level of Elekei HaMelech to the exaltedness and to upraised level of Keser. Afterwards, we take the Arei the level of your Roimimus, and I'm going to bring it down to the level of Kaya Melech. Again, like similar to what we had, that first we raise it up above, and then we draw down from above, down here below. So, we started off by saying that this is v'yichuli truma. That v'yichuli truma, by taking a donation, that's what truma is, a donation. By causing the donation, by giving tzedakah, we cause these two things, the elevation and the drawing down. So too, it's in the giving of tzedakah, klolos ha-mitzvahs, which tzedakah is also called klolos ha-mitzvahs, as the Rebbe in other places often brings that in the expression of the Yerushalmi, when it says mitzvah stam, without identifying what the mitzvah is, it's referring to the mitzvah of tzedakah, because tzedakah is the klolos kol ha-mitzvahs that Rebbe explains. And Alter Rebbe says this in Tanya, that what tzedakah accomplishes is greater than all the mitzvahs. It accomplishes the whole idea of all the mitzvahs, the yichud, the berurim, and so on. And now we're going to bring this back to the concept of maisa, that is ma'asa. Tzedakah has to do with this kfiyah, through coercing himself. He gives from his money that he put in, he toiled over them, both with his toil of his soul, his innermost energy, and the toil of his flesh. This is why the Alter Rebbe in Tanya explains that tzedakah is such an amazing mitzvah, because we're like giving totally of ourselves. When a person puts on tefillin, so they wrap their hands and their head in the tefillin, and they concentrate their mind on the tefillin. But when a person gives tzedakah, they're giving away from their very being, all their energy that they invested in the work to be able to make this dollar, etc. They are taking like a piece of themselves and giving it away. I like to say this is the reason why we find that there are some people that with any mitzvah they don't have a struggle with. But when it comes to tzedakah, it's a very big struggle, because a person often invests so much energy in that thing, and it's like giving away a piece of himself. And that's a great bittul. That's a ma'asa. That's a kfiyah. And then the Rebbe adds, how about not everybody had to work hard for their money? Some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Some people are supported in kollel or in yeshiva when they're bachrim. So the Alter Rebbe also adds in Tanya that even if a person does not toil for the money that he earned, so you don't have that advantage of tzedakah that a person is like giving away a part of themselves, still the normal he could have used this money to buy sustenance. So it's like, again, I'm giving away from my own life. I'm taking my life, what would give me my energy in my life, and I'm giving it away. He gives it to a poor person to give life to the spirit of those that are low. So therefore, because he does this type of kfiyah, he does this type of coercion to give energy and vitality to someone that's low, so through this he also affects above this drawing down of the light of soiviv kolamin, that he's causing, just like he's giving life to a poor person, he's causing the drawing down that soiviv is going down to the low down here. That all of this is accomplished through the coercion of tzedakah. But that's only an example for all the other mitzvahs. So too, it's also in the coercion in all the mitzvahs. That through the coercion of the mitzvahs, not the physicality of the mitzvah, but the coercive, the bittul nature of the mitzvahs, through that he causes that the drawing down of the light of Soiv Kalam and the Yichud of Avayin Alakim. The Kshem Shebekrishma. Hini Atam Masha Bekrishma Poyola Yichud. What's taka the reason that in Krishma he affects this union? Is Lefisha Bekrishma Hu Inyan HaBitl Mesiras Nefesh. Krishma is also about bittul. It's about self-sacrifice. Limser Nafshe Be'echad, like the expression is, that when he reaches the word Echad, person has to bring himself to such a great devotion and giving up like of his soul and giving it to Hashem in the word Echad, that he sees himself subsumed and bottled in that Echad of Hashem. Through that bitl Mesiras Nefesh that he has in Krishma, he draws down the light of Soiv Kalam. So too it's in all mitzvahs. The main thing is the coercion and the bittul of the mitzvahs. Through that he affects the union. This is also the reason why Krishma includes in it all the mitzvahs. Lefisha bekrishma hine bittel the krishma hu bittel klali. When the person is being mevatel himself in krishma, it's not about this action or that action. In tefillin, he's being mevatel himself in putting tefillin on himself. In tzedakah, he's being mevatel himself in giving from his money. True, it's something that reaches to his very core, but it's expressing itself in one particular thing. Kriyashma is about the person saying, I'm totally Hashem's. It's limser nafshe be'echad. I'm giving myself up to Hashem. So it's a bittul klali kriyashma. That's why it's the klalos of all the mitzvahs. And also, v'chein gama yichud shebekriyashma yichud klali. Therefore, the union that it affects in soiviv and mamale, yichud kutshabrichu and shchinte, that takes place by kriyashma is a general union. Mitzvahs, when it comes to mitzvahs, in bechol mitzvah, as opposed to every single mitzvah, yesh bechinas protesh mitzvah. There's the individual level of that mitzvah. Because yesh kefiyah protesh mitzvah. There's the individual coercion that involves that mitzvah. One mitzvah involves the getting up in the morning in time to daven, and one mitzvah involves this coercion and that coercion. So therefore, the type of union that it affects is the union that has to do specifically with that mitzvah. Tefillin causes the yichud of the moichin and so on. The Rebbe continues, last paragraph on this 5th page. We said earlier that when is the yichud going to become out in a revealed way? So he said earlier in the Maimer, we spoke about how this is in the Beis Hamikdash, and only la'asid love, it'll be avaya chad, shmoya chad, that kishem shani nikra, kachani nichtov, that we will pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei as it is written, because then the Yud Kei Vav Kei will be revealed. Now the Yud Kei Vav Kei is concealed, and we pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei in Shem Adonai, which means the yichud, even though it's there, but it's not revealed. But when Mashiach comes, it's going to be revealed. Since the main union takes place through this coercion, like we mentioned before, even though we said that nimnu v'gamru, that they counted, they took accounting, and they came to the conclusion that learning is greater, but that's only in earlier times. But in Mashiach's times, the conclusion is that Maisa will be greater. Why? Because since the Yichud will be revealed, that's why there's going to be the Maila of Kfiyah, the Maila of Bittul is going to be seen. Okay, do as it's known, the fact that they count the top of the next page, and they came to the conclusion that learning Torah is greater is only now. Because if you look at Seder Ishtalshlus, learning is greater than action. How come? Kanal, like we said before, mitzvahs involve the physical, and Torah is the spiritual. So always spiritual is higher than physical. So since spiritual is higher than physical, so therefore, nowadays, Nimnu Bagamru, they came to the conclusion, Talmud Gadol, spiritual, it's greater. But in the future, when Mashiach comes, it will be drawn down the light of Sovev Kalam beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. Then action will be greater. Because the primary drawing down of the light of Sovev Kalam is specifically through action, like we said before. Therefore, in the second parsha of Krishma, it says, we asked the question, how could it be in the second parsha of the Krishma? He says, first mitzvahs, first maisa, and then Torah. If nimnu v'gamru, that Torah is greater, because the second parsha is talking about Mashiach's times. How come? Because in the second part of Krishma he speaks about the main and the ultimate intention that's going to be when Mashiach comes. How do we see this in the second part of Krishma? The beginning of the second parsha, it says, "Hishamru lachem gomer," you should guard yourself, and then v'sartem, you will turn away. What happens afterwards? We know that following the turning away from Hashem, chas v'shalom, there's the avodah of tshuva. It says you will search out from there, from wherever you go into Golus, Hashem your God, and you will find him, because you search him out with all your heart and with all your soul. And b'chol levavcha b'chol nafscha inna Krishma. So we see that Krishma is associated with the second parsha that happens after tshuva. Because through tshuva comes about the geula. So therefore the second parsha has to do with the geula. That's why it says you shall bind them, and afterwards you should learn. Because when Mashiach comes, action will be greater. Specifically, why he uses the example in mitzvahs, that he uses that as the first mitzvah, the mitzvah that indicates the greatness of action. Like we said, that the entire Torah was likened to tefillin. The entire primary idea of Krishma is to affect and to influence that the union should be in a revealed way. Where do you see an example in this world where the yichud is revealed? That's the idea of tefillin. Also in a physical parchment, that now it's already an inanimate thing, it's dead. That came from a living thing, from an animal. In this physical, most mundane type of object, it's written Havaya Echad. The physical thing contains in it Havaya Echad, has this union with Hashem. And the entire Torah was likened to tefillin. Why? That's also the goal of all the mitzvahs, to affect the union in the physical. And Krishma, it's a general way, in all the mitzvahs, it's in detail, like we said before. This is what it says. That's what it says, that you will spread out west and east, and all the families of the earth will bless themselves in you. V'nivruchu means they will become blessed. Becoming something could be because they have no choice in the matter. They are being coerced. It's the idea of coercion. Even though they don't want, that the v'nivruchu just occurs to them. We affect blessings, meaning drawing down godliness, that pulls out and draws out from them and collects all the sparks that are embedded in the nations of the world. Through the coercion that all the families of the earth are blessed through you. So that is what causes that even in these limitations should be a ופרצת. Also in the east and in the west and all the other directions, that's limited, like we said before. Also, and this will be that you spread out, that's the drawing down of the infinite. That's that the union of Havaya Elokim should be revealed. That's why it's a ופרצת in the Gevul. And the future redemption, idea Mashiach Tzidkenu b'karav mamish, through Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily mamish.